Beyond the known galaxy, past the safety of mapped space, there exists a region whispered about in fear across 1,000 alien worlds. They call it the Red Expanse. It's not a nebula or a star cluster. It's a graveyard, a battlefield so violent, so merciless, that entire civilizations have marked it as forbidden territory. In the Red Expanse, there are no laws. There is no rescue. There is only the hunt. And into this cosmic slaughterhouse, one human pilot dared to venture. Alon. His name was Talon Rook, a strike captain from a Deathworld, a planet where survival itself is a form of combat. 4 weeks, he'd been hunted across 3 star systems. His experimental stealth craft, the Shadowfang, riddled with battle scars. His fuel reserves were dangerously low. His weapon systems flickered on the edge of catastrophic failure. He was out of options. Cornered. The Red Expanse wasn't a choice. It was the only place left to hide. A final, desperate gamble. The moment the Shadowfang crossed the invisible boundary, the ship's proximity alerts screamed to life. Alarim's blurred red lights strobing across the cramped cockpit. All around him, space itself seemed to ripple as dozens of alien raider ships decloaked, materializing from the void. They surrounded him like a pack of celestial sharks, their hulls jagged and menacing, bristling with cannons. His sensors identified them instantly. Karov Warpax. A nomadic, predatory species that lived for one thing and one thing only. The thrill of hunting and killing worthy warriors. For them, Talon was the ultimate prize. Any other pilot would have surrendered, or perhaps tried a futile plea for mercy. But Talon Rook was a death. His instincts were forged in environments that killed the slow and the hesitant. He didn't slow down. He didn't flinch. Instead, he gripped the controls and did the unthinkable. In a breathtaking maneuver, he flipped the Shadowfang upside down in the vacuum of space, rerouting every last drop of his remaining fuel into a single, overcharged blast from his main thruster. The ship became a missile, a streak of pure kinetic fury. He rocketed straight through the center of the Kareth formation. The shockwave from his desperate gambit was immense, a concussive force that tore through the void. 2 of the raider ships were ripped apart instantly, their hulls crumpling like paper. The others scattered, stunned by the sheer audacity of his move. He had bought himself a few precious seconds, but he knew this was just the beginning. The small-time hunters were merely the welcoming party. The real enemy was yet to come. From the blood-red heart of the Expanse, something vast and ancient began to stir. A structure so immense it blotted out the distant stars. It was the Bone Spire, a legendary alien war fortress that haunted the nightmares of galactic travelers. This wasn't just a station. It was a living entity, a monstrous amalgamation of countless captured warships fused together with pulsating, biological armor. It was a monument to millennia of slaughter, and it was waking up. Thousands of weapon emplacements began to glow with malevolent energy, and a single, overwhelmingly powerful energy signature locked onto Talon's tiny, damaged craft. The Bone Spire had chosen its next meal. It wanteth im. Trapped, outgunned, with his ship failing, Talon knew he couldn't win a dogfight. He couldn't outrun a living fortress, so he chose a third option. An action so insane that no Kareth hunter could have ever predicted it. He hit the emergency eject button. Yes, you heard that right. He ejected. In the middle of the most dangerous battlefield in the galaxy, Talon Rook flung himself out into the cold, unforgiving vacuum of space. Now he was just a man, floating in the void. All he had was his combat suit, a thin layer of armor against the horrors of space, and a single magnetic rifle clutched in his gauntlets. But he also had something else, something that Kareth couldn't measure. Pure, undiluted rage. Using only the tiny thrusters on his suit, he became a human projectile, firing himself directly toward the awakening behemoth, the Bone Spire. The Kareth hunters, recovering from their initial shock, saw him as an easy target, a lone warrior, exposed and vulnerable. They swarmed after him, their weapons' fire streaking through the darkness, eager to claim the kill. He ignored them. His focus was absolute. He slammed into the fortress's hull with bone-jarring force, his magnetic boots anchoring him to the living metal. The surface beneath him was warm, pulsing rhythmically like the skin of some colossal beast. He didn't hesitate. He tore his way inside, ripping through a fleshy, breathing wall that sealed behind him. He found himself in a corridor that was more organic than mechanical, a vein of living metal that pulsed with a faint, internal light. The fortress knew he was inside. Its immune system responded. From the shadows, alien soldiers rushed him, hulking, bioengineered warriors bred for close-quarters combat. But Talon moved like a storm. He was a whisper of death in the echoing corridors. He snapped necks with brutal efficiency, used floating debris as improvised cover, and fired his magnetic rifle with silent, deadly precision. He wasn't just fighting. He was an apex predator in a new hunting ground. He fought his way deeper, guided by a primal instinct, following the thrum of energy that resonated through the entire structure. He was heading for the heart. Finally, he burst into a vast, cavernous chamber. In the center, suspended in a web of energy conduits and biological cabling, floated the core, a massive, organic war brain, pulsing with an eerie, intelligent light. This was the Nexus, the mind that controlled every Karoth raider, every weapon, every system in the entire Red Expanse. As he approached, a voice flooded his mind. It wasn't spoken. It was a psychic intrusion, cold, ancient, and filled with contempt. "Your prey," it boomed in his consciousness. "You have come here only to die." Talon floated before the immense, glowing brain. The psychic pressure was crushing, enough to shatter the will of lesser beings. But Talon's will was forged in a crucible of fire and death. He raised his magnetic rifle, pressing the barrel directly against the core's pulsating membrane. His voice was calm, a chilling contrast to the chaos around him. "No," he said, the word echoing both aloud in his helmet and as a defiant thought back at the hive mind. "I'm the warning." He pulled the trigger. The fortress screamed. It was not a sound of metal grinding or alarms blaring. It was the psychic death shriek of a good entity, a sound that ripped through the minds of every creature connected to it. Outside, in the void of the Red Expanse, the swarming Karoth raider ships suddenly froze. Their engines died. Their lights went dark. One by one, they fell silent, drifting lifelessly in space as the psychic link that animated them was violently shattered. Inside the dying spire, the corridors convulsed in their death throes. Walls of living metal tore themselves apart. Talon was thrown about as the entire fortress began to collapse in on itself. He navigated the chaos, climbing back out the way he came, emerging into the sudden, deafening silence of space. He just floated there, a lone figure against the backdrop of a dying titan. Alive, he had walked into the galaxy's deadliest place and hadn't just survived. He had triumphed. He had single-handedly broken the power that ruled the Expanse for eons. As he floated away from the haunted battlefield, activating his suit's distress beacon, he glanced back. The bone spire was now just a massive, inert corpse, surrounded by a fleet of ghost ships. The Red Expanse was finally quiet, and it would never be the same again. Because today, the hunters learned to what true fear felt like. They learned that sometimes, the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't the monster you hunt, but the one you corner. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the heart of sci-fi action, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more epic stories from across the galaxy. See you in the next one.